Welcome to the SOE Compatibility Lab webcast. I'm Aimee, Ashlanne Rekoske, Project Manager for the Community Relations Team, and we have a great webcast for you today. We're going to learn about the inner workings of our Compatibility Lab with Ryan Antonelli and James Radcliffe. Hey guys.
How you doing?
We have a ton of questions for them, and we may have time at the end for your questions, so keep those in mind for Raging Together near the end. So let's get to it. What are your guys' official titles? Let's start with you, Ryan.
I'm the Assistant Manager for Quality Assurance and Development Services.
And you, James?
I'm a Quality Assurance Supervisor.
Supervisor. Ooh. Do you guys have any handles or aliases the players might know you as? Like if they post on the forums or anything like that?
I used to be known as Arendar when I was a GM.
Okay.
Anything I use now is probably not something I want to share.
Ooh.
So, not because it's not work safe, just external personas, nice
Right.
to keep quiet.
Right.
So.
When you're playing, you're playing.
Right.
Yeah, I don't have any public forum handles.
All
Only
right.
the players that know me by.
All right. So, how'd you get your start here at SOE?
I got my start here at SOE about 6 years ago. One night when I was playing EQ2 at my house, the banner at the top of the patcher said SOE game tester positions available. Click that. And it came in a couple days later and actually started on the EverQuest 2 Knights team a little before Echoes of Fade were.
All right. Ryan?
I started in CS. I played the game a lot, and a friend of mine was a GM here and suggested I apply. And 2 weeks after I applied, I got the job. And about a year later, a good friend of mine moved up into QA and was the QA manager then, and brought a couple of us up, and I happened to be one of them. And that was really it. And it's been about 10 years since I've been
10 years? Wow.
around.
You've been around.
A little bit. So have you.
I know.
Actually.
I know. So tell us a bit about what you do and what the Compatibility Lab is.
Compatibility Lab's, I don't want to say sole job, but core jobs are testing compatibility. I mean, it's as simple as it's really as simple as it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
Testing video cards, sound cards, operating systems, networking configurations, anything that you can think of that needs to be evaluated against any one of SOE's games.
Mm-hmm.
We tested here. It's a lot of stuff. I mean, you can kind of see the wall maybe a little bit, but the configurations are crazy. There's just a lot to test.
Yeah. Anything to add to that, James?
We get to play with all the cool toys when they come out.
Okay.
Sometimes before they come out.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
New stuff.
We like new stuff.
So why is testing the equipment so important?
There's so many configurations in customer computers that it behooves us to make sure that we test the myriad of configurations that we have. And once upon a time, before there was a compatibility lab, it caused us problems because we didn't do that. And so it really showed us why we needed a compatibility lab. Too many configurations out there, too many driver versions, too many different things that the customers might have that forces us to do our due diligence to make sure that everything works as best we can.
Yeah. All right, so what's the most interesting thing? I mean, you already said you get to play with the cool toys, but I mean, what's the most interesting thing about working here in the Compatibility Lab?
I'd say one of the most interesting things for me is seeing how different hardware or network configurations or stuff actually really react to things. You'd be surprised the types of changes you get just when a company drops a new driver set or a new Java applet or something like that. How that reacts with the software that was functioning fine a day previously, and now it'll have graphical issues or stuff like that. So that would probably be my number one.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you guys use any tools for compatibility testing? I mean, obviously the mountain of equipment, but I mean, is there software? Is there
the primary software tool we use is actually a software tool called LandForge, which is provided by Candela Technologies, and it's a network configuration tools that allows us to emulate outside network conditions in a real-time environment. So, we can configure us to have, a European style connection or whatever from here, or add jitter or packet loss or latency or pretty much anything you can think of under the sun to come in through that pipe.
Speaking of pipes, we're right near the bathroom.
Yeah, sometimes location's not the best, but we take what we can get.
Yeah. In case you didn't notice, we are right inside the Compatibility Lab. So are there any off-the-wall combinations that you've had to throw together to see if it would work?
That's a good question, actually. I can't think of anything right off the top of my head. I mean, we test so many different things that some of them may appear off the wall to the average Joe, but to guys who know hardware, maybe not so much.
Right.
SLI is more common, or Crossfire is more common now, but we test that kind of stuff. RAID arrays, dial-up connections. I mean, people still have. Some people aren't so blessed as to have broadband. But I can't really think of anything. Maybe triple head to go. Maybe
that's definitely a.
And I wouldn't call it off the wall, but it's not
common,
really permeated into the market yet.
Yeah.
So that's it's 3 monitors going there with one little adapter, and you can do that a few other ways. But the Matrox has a specific adapter to do that. So that's something that we've had to test. iFinity would be another thing. We've tested iFinity here, which is similar.
Okay.
We've done 3D testing. So, I mean, some stuff that may seem off the wall, some and not to others.
Right. Okay. Do you need to factor in all the small brands when testing motherboards, video cards, chipsets? There's no less than 15 brands of the same video card and chipset on popular computer, parts.
We have a pretty broad spectrum. We do have our favorites that we'd like to keep in here, and we do have some affiliations with some of the vendors. But we do try to keep a broad spectrum for sure, and we do the small vendors. I mean, I'm not going to be specific on which vendors the smaller vendors, what we feel are smaller vendors might not.
You're not going to name drop?
Of course not. But yeah, we do. The broad spectrum is key because sometimes one manufacturer's card, it's going to differ from another manufacturer's card. The specs are going to be different. You can have different amounts of VRAM, the clock speeds, the core. There can be differences. So sometimes we'll see different results if we test those. So we do make sure that we keep those in house as much as we can.
Okay, all right. In your opinion, what's the best setup you've been able to put together and test, and then want to take home with you because it's like, oh my gosh, it's the best.
For the most part, it's normally the new stuff right when it comes out. Right when i7 processors came out, and you get that first i7 rig in here, with 8, 16 gigs of RAM in it or something, and at the time it's brand new, and it just smokes everything. That's really the top ones that are the ones that I would sneak into my trunk and want to take home with me. But
security has cameras in here, don't they?
All over the place.
But we're hardware guys. I mean,
right.
we generally, most of us have pretty up-to-date rigs.
Right.
So something new comes out, or we know it's coming out, we'll take the opportunity to go ahead and pick that stuff up as well.
Anyway.
I wouldn't trade any box in here for the box I have at home.
No.
To be honest with you, I really wouldn't.
All right. So since you test a lot of hardware, do you happen to have any recommended upgrades for people who want to, eke out a bit more performance on their rig before moving to a whole new computer? There's great things about SSDs, solid state drives, improving hardware access and times.
I'll let James go first.
Is there going to be some?
For me on this one, it really depends on what you're looking to get out of your computer. For me, from a personal standpoint, I get impatient at my house.
Okay.
So stuff like solid state drives, where I'm going to get faster load times on things, or just even get into the operating system on a faster level, it matters to me because I don't like to wait.
Okay.
From a flat gaming perspective, you really normally get the most bang from the buck from a video upgrade, in my opinion. You can then crank the settings up higher. You know, it's going to make the game world look better, and that just it brings the immersion level in there to you more.
Right.
I don't disagree. I'm definitely impatient too. I want to load, you know, quickly. So I mean I have SSDs at home. I'm split between. You know, James says video card. I don't disagree with that. It really depends on what your core system already is, as to where your best upgrade might come from. If you're only running, if you manage to run Windows 7 with 2 gigs of RAM and it's clean, I would suggest maybe upgrading RAM, because you're going to see some performance at it. If your system's always it's constantly flushing your RAM out, well, that's going to be a performance hit. Video card definitely is a key component as well. I mean, that's where your pretties show up, your shinies, you know. Where you get to see the textures or the SM 3.0 stuff, you know, anything that we've thrown in there that we want you to take advantage of.
Right.
So, like I said, I don't disagree, but I think it really definitely depends on the system itself too.
Right. So I think we covered this question, but do you need to have relationships with AMD, ATI, NVIDIA, and Matrox to maintain the Compatibility Lab?
I think it's a prerequisite. We've had relationships with all of those companies for quite some time, and it's a two-way street. I mean, it's in their best interest to associate with us because they want, you know, their hardware and their drivers to work against whatever we develop, and you know, vice versa. We want our stuff to work well on their stuff. And if you don't have access to pre-release drivers or pre-release hardware, you know, to see whatever's after Fermi, for example, with NVIDIA, to see that beforehand, gives them this opportunity to say, okay, how's this working? Okay, well, we're seeing some problems here.
Right.
Report that to NVIDIA, for example, and say, this is what we're seeing. Let's work this out. And our developers work directly with the vendors too. So it's a nice circle that we have going.
Yeah.
So I absolutely it's integral to what we do.
For video cards especially, is support more reliant upon drivers or the hardware?
I'm gonna say normally it tends to be a driver standpoint. If your card meets the specs requirement to get into the game, and you're seeing an issue, it tends to land on a driver related problem.
I would agree.
Yeah? All right. All right, so this can be a fun question. How do you guys amuse yourselves in here? You know, like for things that are repetitive or whatever. What do you guys do for fun?
What do you do for fun, James?
You can kick this one off first. You know, you kicked a couple over this way. You know, so
I just want to be fair. Doing repetitive tests together actually allows for a little bit of to take a little bit of the monotony anyway. Let's be honest. I mean, some of the tests that we do they're definitely repetitive, but you have to do repetitive tests in order to get your results out, right? So rather than actually toying around in game, it's more a banner of conversation than anything else.
Yeah.
And that keeps our light on our feet without really saying, you know.
Right.
So if you start doing something in game, it's going to skew your results. So you can't really play around in game while you're doing your repetitive tests. So you have to find something in your environment
so
to do that.
Do we need a Compatibility Lab Twitter feed I've overheard in the office?
Probably not. I think we like our jobs a lot. So no.
What about you, James?
Some of the stuff, there's a fair share of pranks that probably get played in this room.
True story.
During longer hours or, the more tedious tasks. We try to, keep it pretty easy in here. We'll play comedy sketches or, loud music or stuff like that, to kind of keep it upbeat and fun in here, so people can get a good laugh while, they're doing their stuff. So. Do
you watch comedy sketches or put them on?
No, well, we'll one of our guys that sits over here, is pretty much like all the comedy CDs ever released, so he'll toss a CD on,
I thought you meant you were acting them out.
No, although that's gonna give
3
me
3:00 in the morning. You'd be amazed at what might happen.
I know.
That'll give me some ideas for next time.
Did the Compatibility Lab play any part in testing EverQuest 2's 3D development?
Yes.
Yeah.
They had to, or
Right.
we had to. They had to present it to us to make sure, and we spent a few weeks on it, I believe, as they tried to process through what they were trying to do. So, yeah, I mean, the dev teams will know when something needs to come through here. When they make any, even if it's minor changes, they'll let us know, and we actively pursue them. Is it time to do a hardware pass? Is it time to do a performance pass? Is it time to do this or that? But they do an excellent job of keeping us up to date as to whether or not they have something for us to test.
Okay.
So,
Awesome. Do you guys? I'm sure you do because I've seen one around here. PlayStation 3 testing.
we have several.
Yes.
Yeah. How does that work? I mean, because there's not much compatibility on it except for the game and the actual system itself. But
The Compatibility Lab also encompasses all of the network stuff. So
Right.
Whenever we're doing, any multiplayer testing or any network testing, that all goes through us as well. So even if the game only has a leaderboard system, that's still something that we have to see if you have anything from a phone connection up to a fiber connection.
Okay.
That you're in and you're good no matter what situation you're coming in.
cool.
We do have some TRC obligations. I mean, we have a TRC team, but we do test. Nice catch.
Thanks.
Some TRC bits and pieces specific to networking and a few other things. We've done a lot of testing down here. Like when we did the Midway games, for example.
Okay,
We spent a lot of time on network with that stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you guys have a whole network. What do you call it? A lab?
Yeah, we have a network lab across the hall. Yeah.
Right. Which is new. New to me. So I've only seen it a couple times pass it with tours, but yeah, about a year.
Yeah,
now?
about a year ago.
So I'm going away from the script, but can you talk about that a little bit?
The network lab, it was actually just an expansion from here. It used to all be on that back wall where that whiteboard is right now, and it just, as we've, as hardware's kept moving forward, we needed to move over, so we have everything kind of set up statically over there. So if we need a DSL connection of a certain speed, there's a port for it, and you just plug into it and you're testing it faster. And we have everything from 768 up to 4 megs a second for the DSL connections, and then we have our internal lines and then the LAN forge lines.
No FiOS?
No.
I personally would love for Verizon to come down to
Yes.
San Diego, but
They need to make the move.
So there's
do.
no FiOS. See, I live
Yeah.
north, so
I
I'm
miss
spoiled.
I miss my old FiOS because I lived up there not too far from
Yeah.
you, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
But that's where the LAN forge line comes into
Right.
play too, because it can do those type of connections
Cool.
for us.
Very cool. So is there anything else you guys want to share with our viewers before we head over and see if they have questions for you?
I don't have anything on hand.
I don't know. I love doing compat. I'm a hardware guy. I have always been a hardware guy. I was a hardware guy before I started here. So the opportunity to have a compatibility lab, to actually create the compatibility lab and then build off it, and then have guys like James be a part of that has been awesome. I wouldn't take this opportunity back for anything.
How many systems have you guys built on your own? Like
Well-
your home systems?
Oh,
Oh.
home system. I
Yeah,
thought
right,
you were talking
right,
here,
like,
and I was like,
well,
don't
there's
think I can count
there's
that.
those people who go to the store and they just buy a system, and then there's people probably like you guys who go and buy all the parts, off Newegg and Tiger Direct and all those stores and build their systems up. My husband's one of those guys, but
I'd say for me, it's normally about a 5-year upgrade.
yeah.
About once every 5 years, I'll grab a new board, and it'll be a new system
You
from
just
scratch.
build from the bottom up, right?
And in that interim, it'll be a new video
Upgrade,
card
upgrade.
here, a new
Yeah.
sticker RAM there, type of stuff. So maybe 4 or 5 from scratch at this point in time.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm similar to James, but my upgrade cycle is a little bit more tight.
Mhm.
I'm impatient, and
Yes.
when new stuff comes out, I want to have the new stuff. So
Sounds very familiar.
I know your husband, so I understand. In the past 10 years, I've probably done 7 or 8 full cycles of different machines. And like you say, I mean, I buy separate parts.
Yeah.
But if something or a multitude of things come out that makes sense to upgrade the machine, I'll do that, yeah.
I'm pleased to say that the last machine he built was for me.
Nice. Nice. Favorite part of my machine is my 30-inch.
Yeah.
I have a Dell 30-inch. I love it.
Oh,
it's my
yeah, nice big monitor.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, viewer questions, Joel?
Sure. How far in advance are new things tested?
That varies on a few different things. The vendors obviously are key. Sometimes they have testing samples well in advance, and sometimes they don't. They normally give us a 2 or 3 month window to test out what they've got, depending on, again, how many testing samples they have. Sometimes bins aren't as friendly, and so they don't have as many testing samples, so they need to pick and choose where they go. And they try to get us things as fast as they can. And we've got good relationships with all our vendors, but we have to be realistic about who gets what. So I'd say 2 or 3 months is pretty fair, which is more than enough for us to test.
Yeah.
And what's the best way to kind of stress test your own system to make sure it's going to work properly?
Interestingly enough, we've been doing that lately with a friend of ours system here. So,
am I allowed to drop the program on that?
I think we should pass specifically on that, but there are multiple burn-in programs that will allow you to test both the processor and the video card and the RAM, the system as a whole, stress test. Rather not name drop when it comes to that.
So Google search it?
Yeah, they're very common.
Yes, there's very common stress test programs that you can do.
Right.
They'll get the job done.
Do you think it's better to stress test like the complete system together rather than some programs that just stress test the CPU and memory?
What do you think, James?
I always go with, unless you are particularly having a problem that you think you know where the source is coming from. So if you think your video card's the issue, then stress test just the video card. Otherwise, I go with stress the whole thing.
And most of the programs will do that. And if you're going to stress the whole thing, you said there's definitely specific programs that will stress the whole system rather than a specific set of instructions just for the processor and RAM, for example.
And are you looking forward to testing Windows 8?
Sure. Actually, I love new operating systems. I love testing the operating systems before they come out. I'm generally I install as soon as Microsoft throws it on MSDN, because we do have MSDN accounts here. So as soon as it reflects on MSDN, we'll grab it and we'll start testing around. And I'll do that on my my personal systems in order to really get a feel for it away from the work environment. So I'm not obtaining a work environment, because I have test systems at home. So I always like to see what Microsoft's going to spit out next.
Yeah.
What about you?
I'm gonna say it's a blessing and a curse at the same time.
It's true.
It is it's fun to get your hands on it and test it before it comes out and see all the new things it can do. But a new operating system is a very time intensive task.
Like between Vista and Windows 7, the amount of changes that they made, or even XP to Vista, the massive amount of changes just in user access control was time consuming. For us.
Such a huge learning curve just for the user too.
For the user and for us, for sure. I mean, just because we do this for a living doesn't mean that that we don't have to learn it too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And we can't wrap it up without asking what your favorite games are.
Oh yeah.
What do you like to play?
What are you guys playing right now?
What do you play, James?
What do I play? Right now I'm playing DCUO, Green Lantern Update.
Woo!
Getting ready for that one.
DCO is the last major game I've played. My life is pretty time consuming outside of work, but I definitely have enjoyed DCO immensely. I love what we've done with the game, and I think we're definitely heading in the right direction as we continue to move forward.
Well, thank you guys, and thank you all for joining us for the SOE Compatibility Webcast. We hope you enjoyed meeting Ryan and James and learning about the Compatibility Lab, why it's important for a company like SOE, and all the fun and interesting things that go on inside here. some cool sketches that might come out. We might have to bring the bloggy by here at 3 a.m. So thank you all for
Or not.
viewing.
This is why we have badges on the doors.
See?
Your badge won't work there.
Dang it! I'll have to contact Rick. See you next time.